it will be alive, it will be invigorated, it will be illuminating the world. Baruch Hashem. We are in the evening between the 6th and the 7th of Menachem Av, and Be'ezras Hashem we are going to conclude and make a siyum on chapter 49, Mem Tes. So we are got to Mem Tes Sha'ar Rebina, and now next time Be'ezras Hashem will be entering the Sha'ar Anun, chapter 50. And then we will also go over the main nekudas of Dvar Malchus Be'ezras Hashem of this coming Shabbos, which is very special. And if we have time and strength, we have more desserts that could be served. It's about Shabbos Chazon and the pushed off fast. And that's from, I have a beautiful piece from the Bnei Yissaschar. So we'll see what happens. So let's begin. We are on page Ayin of the Tanya, which is corresponding to page 138 in the original Tanya. And we are in the line Kulo Ulechalelan, which is, if you go to the end of the chapter, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lines from the end of chapter 49, going up, 8 line up. Kulo ulechalelan biyichudo. What we said in the last time is making the point. The Rebbe said that it's not enough that we should make the mental yichud with Hashem when we learn Torah and our Chabad is kissing the divine Chabad, but we also have to yotzi b'sfasav, to moitzi b'sfasayim, to express what we learn with our lips, b'dibur. Why? כדי להמשיך אור אינסוף ברוך הוא למטה. In order to bring אור אינסוף, divinity, godliness, down to the physical world. All the way to bring godliness into the nefesh achiyunis, the vital soul that is dwelling in the blood of the person. And this vital soul is nurtured from the food that we eat. That means domem, tzomeach, and chai. We eat from the inanimate, like minerals, water, salt, and we eat from the plants, and we eat from the chai, from the animal kingdom. And that creates our blood, in which the nefesh achiyunis dwells. And all of that has to be ascending. We have to elevate all that to Elokus. So that's the last thing we learn. Kedei la'alosan kulam la'havaya. To elevate everything. And remember, we shared the story of the person that came to the Rebbe and said, what people in China have to do with being elevated. They don't even know what Yiddishkeit is. And the Rebbe said, look at the lining of your coat and see it's made in China, and you're using that coat when you learn Torah, when you walk outside to buy lulav, whatever it is. So everything, the whole entire world has to be included, it has to be elevated to Elokus, to godliness. That's where we are. The beginning of the line, Kulo ulechalelan, 8 lines from the end of this chapter. So now explains Rabbi Ginsburg alav shalom. And he says like this, one could claim seemingly that, okay, I understand that we have an obligation to be engaged in bringing Elokus, in bringing Or Ein Sof into the world. But it looks like this is a separate obligation to bring godliness into the guf as well, into the body, to bring godliness and holiness into the world. Fine, we have that mission, but it's a separate mission, it's a separate goal. What's the connection between that and the avoida of the brachos of Kriya Shema and Kriya Shema, which is all about Ava, and tremendous love and tremendous yearning to let go of everything and be subsumed in the infinite godliness. And because of that, to be engaged in Torah, which is the kissing of the divine, as we learned last time. Is dapkus rucha berucha, one spirit attached to the other. That's the learning of the Torah. What is all this shayach to bringing Elokus into the world? It's a different obligation. And therefore continues the Rebbe and emphasizes that these two are connected with each other, because the ultimate goal is not just to deal with the world, rather that the same avoida, the same service, the same spiritual process and personal process that a person works with himself to refine himself and to elevate himself and to cleave to godliness to the extent that our goal is to be included, to be completely nullified, and to become one with HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Recording in progress.
So the Rebbe says it's just an extension of the same thing. Just as you want to include yourself, and you should want to include your soul, your consciousness, your sense of self in godliness, in the infinite, so too you want to do to the rest of the world that you are connected with. You want to include that in your personal process. Look inside. Ulechalelan, to include all those elements, the domem, tzomeach, and chai, all elements of existence in this world, from which the dam, the blood of Bnei Israel is made. And I want to make a point here. I should remember to make it a point in other shiurim as well, that when we talk about the Jewish souls and what happens to them and how they are nurtured from this or from that, and what they reach and what they don't reach, obviously it applies to the non-Jews as well, to the Gentiles as well, because we are supposed to be the channel through which divinity is coming into the world. That's the mission and the goal of the mission, yes, and the obligation of the Jewish people, to be light to the nations. But every achievement, every spiritual achievement, every divine achievement of a Jewish soul has immediate effect on entire mankind. And everyone benefits from it. And it affects the consciousness of everyone. And there is an interaction between the Jewish consciousness and the non-Jewish consciousness. And what unifies all true consciousness is the wish to be really connected with God in a true and authentic way. And that transcends nations. In any case, U'lechalelan, to include all the elements of existence in the world, biyichudo ve'oro yisbarach, in the oneness and in the light of God, blessed be it, Him. So just as one is working with himself to become so transparent, so self-centeredness free, so aligned with divinity, that he becomes one with our own self and with God himself, so too one needs to include anything that he is made of in terms of the world that he's interacting with and he's eating and he's having a relationship with. Still, asked Rabbi Ginsburg, what's the shaychus of this to all the avoida of Birkos Kriya Shema and Kriya Shema, which is the ava and the tremendous yearning and tshuka to let go of everything for the sake of the love of God, and because of this to be engaged in Torah, which is the cleaving in one spirit to the other. What is it? How is that shayach to the avodah that we have to do with the body and with the physical world? Even the speaking of words of Torah, seemingly, it's not the main thing in terms of the expression of this love that one is supposed to experience in Shema. Because if it's mitzad the ava and the tshuka, the love and the yearning to be included and to be nullified in godliness, then it would be sufficient be'iyun Torah, in learning of Torah and bringing it in thought all the way to the psak halacha, as we discussed last time. But we don't have to have dibur. We don't have to have speech. One can unite with the divine mind internally in his mind by thinking. Bringing it into dibur, into speech, this is only to refine the body, and how much more so elevating other things in the world. And this is what the Rebbe is continuing to explain, that this brings to the tachlis of everything, to the goal of everything. And since this is the goal of everything, this is also the tachlis, the goal and the ultimate purpose of whatever he experiences in his avodah, in davening, peaking in Kriyat Shema. Look inside. Asher, which through our actions, through our avodah in Torah and Mitzvos, all the time of Meshech HaGalus, this goal will be fulfilled, to have a home for Hashem in the physical world. Then Ya'ir, the oneness of Hashem, and His light will shine in the Geula Amitis Vashlema, and it will be down here, La'aretz ve'ladarim alea. It's the aret, and to those who dwell in the earth and those who dwell on the earth, human beings, souls in bodies. And not just a little bit of gilui, of divine revelation will be in this geula, but everything should be bivchinas gilui, v'nigla kvod havaye v'ra'u kol basar v'chulu. That means that through our actions and our learning in the time of Galus, there will be the gilui, the entire gilui of Or and Sof and godliness itself in the physical world to human beings, to the extent is to benigla kvod avaya vera'u chol basar. Continuation of that is in Yeshayahu in chapter 40. That kipi Hashem diber, all flesh will see that the mouth of God spoke. That means that then the glory of God will be revealed in its full strength, to the extent that even the physical flesh would be able to see Elokus literally. You won't even need just the physical eyes. Even the flesh itself, not only your eyes you will see Elokus literally, physically, but your flesh will see Elokus as well. And now, says the Rebbe, this is shayach to this avodah of Shema. Shezeu, this inyan of elevating the entire world to be included and battled to godliness, it's not an additional obligation, chiyuv, or a side shlichus that we have. This is the tachlis ishtalshelus kol ha'olamos. This is the ultimate goal of the evolvement of all worlds. The goal of the entire creation is not for the higher spiritual worlds. The tachlis is liyos kvod havaye male kol haaretz halazu dafka. That the glory of God should be filling the entire earth. This earth, particularly, bivchinas gilui, and all this should be completely revealed. And it's only here in this world that the ultimate divine wish can be fulfilled. What is it? Lehapcha chashucha lenehoira, to transform the darkness of this world. The dafka from this darkness will burst out divine light. Umerira lemiska, and we will transform that which is bitter to sweet. Kaniska la'el ba'arichus, as we learned at length chapters 36 and 37. וזהו תכליס כוונת האדם בעבודה זו. And since this is the ultimate goal, the entire goal of the purpose of man in his service of Hashem, and memele also the tachlis of his service in Kriya Shema and in brachos before it, and the entire enormous love that one is experiencing in Kriya Shema after elevating himself and his consciousness through and up the ladder of davening, of daily prayer. Not only that he should become one with God, but lehamshich or ein sof baruch hu lemata, to bring the infinite light of God down here. And this we do specifically through learning Torah b'dibur, by speech, and not only through thought and reflection. We need to carry out Torah, to express Torah in speech and in action. Nevertheless, the Alter Rebbe in all last chapters explain how important it is to reach an inflaming fire to God in one's heart. Even though now we're going back and forth, but now we are saying that the main thing is Dibur and Maaseh. Rak only, says the Rebbe, look inside. It's true that the main thing is to making a home for God in the physical world, which is done mainly through the fulfillment of Torah and Mitzvos in speech and in action. And without speech and action, this home for God cannot be built and established. However, a cardinal aspect of this home for God is that it has to be a lichtige dira. It has to be a lit up home, a home that is pleasant to be there. That divinity will be shining there in a revealed manner, and not in a very limited way like a body without a soul. And for that, it's not enough to have just the carrying out of Torah and Mitzvos b'dibur and b'maaseh, in speech and action, and with physical objects, that they are low, and in them Elokus by default doesn't shine begilui in a revealed way. And therefore, shetzarich, the Rebbe says, tchila, before we are carrying out Torah and Mitzvos, first, says the Rebbe, we need halas mayin nukbin. Before we are carrying Yiddishkeit, b'dibur and b'maaseh, we have to proceed the elevation of the feminine waters. That means the nukba, the feminine, the makabel, the recipient, the world, will not remain so low. Every spiritual process of transformation has to begin with halas mayim nukbin, with a beginning of initiation from below. When the below wants to ascend and brings itself up, is awakened with a yearning to bring himself out, and herself, himself, itself up to get closer to God and to divinity. And by this, one is uplifted from his physical, materialistic existence, and now he creates some kind of connection, of relation with Elokus, with godliness. And then, only then, that means that he needs to be inspired. And then, only then, the fulfillment of his Torah and Mitzvos will be with the soul as well. It wouldn't be like a robot or like a dead body without a soul. It will be alive, it will be invigorated, it will be illuminating the world. Knowing that by this, he is connecting and battle and included in Elokus by doing the will of Hashem with the physical world. And Mimele, when he creates a shaychus to Elokus in a revealed way, then the elokus, the godliness that he brings down, every one of us, brings down through his service and her service, is also, when it comes down, will be revealed. Because it's not only that the action was done, but the intention and the presence behind the action is like the soul of the action. And that enables the gilui of the divine light. Especially when we're talking about bringing down the essence of God, which is infinite and unlimited. So the kli for it, the vessel for it, teaches us the Rebbe, is this unlimited love. That the person would be willing. And for that we went through all these prakim, and have one more to go, the 50th as well, regarding how to inspire ourselves with this love, that it is an unconditional, unlimited love, for which the person is willing to give everything he owns and everything he's attached to, and limsor lo nafsho umeodo, to give over to God his soul, his life, and all his possessions. Kanizkar la'el, as mentioned before. This is a tnuah, a move of going out of any limitations. And with that, a person becomes a keli for the revelation of the Ein Sof, which is also higher than any limitations. And this is the connection between, concludes Rabbi Ginsburg, between the love that is unlimited, that the person awakens through the process of davening, in Kriya Shema and its brachas, that leads him to learn Torah b'dibur dafka, and also to do the mitzvos in action dafka, because this love is the halas maim nukvin, which is called in Kabbalah the ascending of the feminine waters, which means that the Mekabel has to initiate a wish to come close and to awaken the Mashpia, the giver, God, to enable us to connect with him. But there has to be always the initiation from below, and that we do by awakening our feelings and our love to Hashem, so we can bring it into our practical service of Torah and Mitzvos, and bring the essence of God himself, which is higher than any limitations, into this physical finite world. We are concluding chapter 49 by learning that the purpose and goal of this unconditional and unlimited love that one is awakening in Kriya Shema and its brachos is not to remain this unlimited love, but it has to be brought down in actuality to actual limud Torah and dafka in halacha as well, and the practical aspect of Yiddishkeit, which is very important in the chinuch of our children, to make sure that throughout their education. Came out a short clip from Rabbi Yossi Paltiel, how important it is in the chinuch of our yeshivas and homes to teach the children the practical aspects, not to assume that they would know, but practically how to wash our hands, how to dry them when we say Netilas Yadayim, when to say the bracha, how to make a seder, how to put on the tefillin exactly, how to make a kesher of tefillin, how to make the tzitzis, practical things of Yiddishkeit that we need to know, that children need to be taught. And that is the way to connect with God the most. And not to suffice with a reflection of the thought, but to bring it into dibur and into practical mitzvahs. Because by this we fulfill the divine intention, which is the ultimate goal, to make a home to God in this physical world. And the entire virtue of this love that we spend so much time talking about is that it is serving as halas maim nukvin, as a prelude to the fulfillment of Torah and Mitzvos by the feminine aspect, which means we, the neshamos that are constantly looking up to the divine, to be nurtured by the divine, we are first initiating the wish to coming close to Him by arousing this love to Him, and that is for the sake of the practical avoida of Torah, Bedibur, and Kiyum Mitzvos Lemaise, to bring down God Himself, His essence, higher than all limitations, and by this to fulfill the intention of creation, which is to make a very pleasant and lit up home for God in this world. And by this, thank God, we concluded chapter 49, Mem Tes Sha'ar Bina, of the Tanya Kadisha. Baruch Hashem.